What if I told you that one of the world's greatest underground fighters made the biggest mistake of his life when he challenged Jason Statham? That's right. The undefeated champion, feared by all, thought he could humiliate the Hollywood star in front of a crowd, but what happened next? No one would ever forget. If you think you've seen it all, watch the video until the end and get ready for the most epic and unbelievable story of Statham's career. The man known as Predator built his reputation with blood and brutality. From a very young age, his life was marked by violence and the fight for survival. He grew up on the streets of a city where only the strongest prevailed, and soon discovered that the only way to secure his place was to be fiercer than anyone around him. That's how his journey in underground fights began, where every victory meant not only money, but respect and power. With devastating blows and monstrous strength, Predator amassed more than 100 consecutive victories, never knowing the bitter taste of defeat. His opponents didn't just leave the ring defeated, they left destroyed, both physically and psychologically. His fighting style was brutal and ruthless, and he made a point of crushing the pride of anyone who dared to face him. No opponent left unscathed, and many never returned to the fights after experiencing the overwhelming violence of his strikes. Every fight was a spectacle of violence and domination. He didn't just win, he crushed. He became a true living legend in the underground circuit, and his fame quickly spread throughout the cities. The organizers treated him like a precious jewel because wherever he fought, the crowd followed. Gamblers moved fortunes just to see Predator in action, and people crowded into dirty basements and abandoned warehouses just to witness the brutality show he put on. His name was mentioned with fear and respect, and no one dared to challenge him directly. He was the invincible monster of underground rings. But behind the mask of brutality, something started to bother him. The sense of invincibility that once made him feel like a god now tormented him. No opponent was capable of surprising him, and the fights had become monotonous and predictable. He needed something more, something that would reignite the flame of challenge and prove to himself that there was still an adversary worthy of his strength. Then on a particularly crowded fight night with the atmosphere heavy with tension and the audience in an uproar, Predator spotted someone unexpected among the crowd. Jason Statham, a Hollywood star famous for his action roles, stood in a corner, watching the fights with a calm and curious expression. A cynical smile appeared on Predator's face. To him, Jason was nothing more than a pretentious actor, someone who pretended to be a fighter on screen, but wouldn't dare face a real warrior. Memories of Statham's fight scenes in movies flooded the champion's mind. He laughed out loud, mentally mocking the actor and already imagining how it would be to publicly humiliate him. He decided it would be a great publicity stunt to challenge Statham and expose him as a fragile imposter, unable to handle a real fighter. For Predator, it was a game of cat and mouse, and the action star was just the easy prey he would use to further reinforce his image of invincibility. That night's underground event was more crowded than ever before. The crowd was buzzing with anticipation, with men betting fortunes, women cheering for their favorites, and the smell of sweat and tension soaking the hot, stuffy air of the warehouse. The previous fights had already ignited the spirits, but no one could imagine what was about to happen. Suddenly, a murmur began to spread through the room. All eyes turned to a corner where Jason Statham stood motionless, his expression firm and observant. His piercing gaze seemed to cut through the fighters, as if assessing every move, every detail. His presence there seemed out of place, and the whispers quickly turned into a frenzy of curiosity and anxiety. Predator, noticing the commotion, felt a surge of satisfaction. This was the moment he had been waiting for. He walked to the center of the ring with heavy steps, his eyes flashing with arrogance and superiority. Silence took over the room when he stopped and raised his arms, like a predator that had just captured its prey. His posture was intimidating, and his presence filled the space with an aura of pure aggression. He pointed at Jason with a disdainful gesture, displaying a cruel smile that seemed to mock the actor's presence there. The crowd began to shout, urging the confrontation, while the organizers realized they had the chance to turn that moment into something historic. Jason's face remained impassive, but his eyes never wavered from the giant who was provoking him with such intensity. Predator took a few steps toward the corner where Jason stood and cast a piercing, challenging look. The atmosphere seemed to freeze, and everyone waited for the actor's reaction. Jason remained motionless for what felt like an eternity, and then, with a calm and determined gesture, he took a step forward, breaking the invisible barrier that separated the two worlds. The world of cinema and the reality of brutality. The crowd's heartbeat seemed to pound louder as the air filled with anticipation. Without uttering a single word, Jason walked toward the ring, his expression remaining cold and calculating. His gaze conveyed unwavering confidence, and every movement he made exuded absolute control. The crowd fell silent, sensing that something monumental was about to happen. The confrontation was set, but no one could imagine that this encounter would change everything they knew about underground fights. The days that followed were filled with pure preparation, as a tense silence hung over both sides. For Predator, the fight against Jason Statham represented more than just an ordinary victory. It was a chance to show the world that no one, not even a celebrity used to cinematic choreography, would dare face his brutality and walk away unscathed. Predator's training was even more intense than usual. He dedicated countless hours to perfecting his devastating blows, repeating each movement with almost mechanical precision. His calloused hands would rip through punching bags in mere minutes, while his shouts echoed throughout the training warehouse, instilling fear in those who watched. His coach, a man equally rough and intimidating, fueled his ferocity, repeating that it wouldn't just be a fight but a demonstration of absolute power. Every muscle in Predator's body seemed to vibrate with insane energy, and his routine was not just physical but also mental. He spent nights reviewing footage of Statham's movies, laughing with disdain at how the actor moved on screen. To him, it was all cheap acting, and he believed that just one strike would completely destroy the heroic image the actor had built in his movies. Deep down, Predator felt invincible, and the idea of failure never even crossed his mind. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Jason Statham was also preparing intensely, but in a completely different way. He knew he wouldn't be facing a stuntman trained to simulate fights. This would be a real battle, raw and brutal. To get ready, he sought the help of old mentors and friends, people who truly understood what it meant to fight for survival. Statham's training focused on precision and endurance, while Predator strengthened himself with violence and power. Jason pursued calmness and discipline. Night runs through deserted streets honed his stamina, while long martial arts sessions refined his skills in defense and counterattack. His goal wasn't to be stronger, but to be faster and smarter. Every trained strike was thought to be lethal, precise and efficient, like a deadly dance requiring absolute control of body and mind. During his training, Statham visualized every possible move his opponent might make, anticipating the brutal combinations that Predator could use. He knew the key to winning was to control the fight from the start, mentally destabilize his opponent, and exhaust his energy before delivering decisive blows. The big day finally arrived. The underground arena was buzzing with an almost palpable energy. Gamblers exchanged stacks of cash with trembling hands, while the organizers made the final adjustments to the improvised setting. The crowd's eyes were fixed on the warehouse entrance, waiting for the protagonists of that epic showdown to arrive. Predator was the first to enter, accompanied by his followers and trainers. His presence radiated pure brute force. The crowd roared with intensity, as if they were standing before a living legend. He raised his arms confidently, inciting the audience with a wild and threatening look. His body appeared to be an impenetrable fortress, and every movement was followed by deafening cheers. Then the atmosphere fell silent when Jason Statham entered. His posture was calm, but his eyes were fixed and determined. Every step was firm, and his face conveyed an almost unsettling tranquility. While Predator displayed his brutality, Jason remained absolutely focused, like a warrior who had already visualized the path to victory. The makeshift referee signaled the start of the fight, and Predator immediately charged forward with impressive speed for someone his size. His punch cut through the air like a sledgehammer, but Jason dodged it by a fraction of a second, almost as if he had anticipated the move. The crowd reacted in shock, and Predator, furious, attacked again with a series of brutal blows. Jason kept dodging, studying each movement, every flaw in the aggressive stance of his opponent. As the fight progressed, Predator intensified his aggression, but Jason remained calm. The champion's stamina began to show signs of wear, while Statham, with precise and agile movements, seized every opening to deliver quick and painful counterattacks. A spinning kick struck Predator's torso, making him stumble for the first time in years. The crowd was in shock, unable to believe what they were witnessing. The giant was breathing heavily, his face now marked by a cut above his left eye. For the first time, he felt a shiver of doubt crawl down his spine. Jason noticed it and, with a fluid motion, unleashed a combination of quick and precise punches, targeting vulnerable points. Predator tried to retaliate with a brutal swing but missed the target by mere inches. Jason seized the opportunity and executed a sweeping kick followed by a direct blow to the jaw, bringing the giant to his knees. Predator tried to rise, his muscles trembling with effort, but Statham was already on top of him, immobilizing the opponent's arm with a precise hold. The pain intensified, and the crowd remained in absolute silence, unable to process what was happening. With one last firm pressure, Jason kept the opponent on the ground, while Predator finally admitted his defeat, unable to continue the fight. The silence in the arena was deafening. The air seemed charged with static electricity and no one dared to blink, fearing they might miss any detail of that historic moment. Jason rose with slow and precise movements, breathing deeply to calm the adrenaline still pulsing through his body. His gaze remained fixed on the fallen opponent, and his steps were firm, yet controlled. The expression on his face was that of a man who knew he had accomplished the impossible. Around the ring, people were still frozen, trying to process what they had just witnessed. It was almost impossible to believe that the legendary Predator, the man who had never been defeated, was now sprawled on the ground, breathless and vanquished. The echo of applause started timidly, like a murmur in the background, but soon transformed into a deafening roar of celebration and astonishment. Jason Statham's name was repeated with euphoria, like a victory mantra that resonated from all corners. Predator remained on the ground for a few moments, his arms heavy and body trembling with exhaustion. His mind was still dazed by the pain, but what truly shattered him was the humiliation. He had never experienced the feeling of being defeated, and the shame burned more intensely than any blow he had taken. Finally, with monumental effort, he began to rise, placing his hands on the rough floor of the ring. His gaze was lost, as if trying to find some remnant of dignity to keep himself standing. When he finally managed to get up, Predator lifted his head and met Jason's firm gaze. There was no provocation or arrogance in the winner's eyes. There was something much deeper, a mix of understanding and respect. The giant lowered his shoulders, feeling the weight of defeat crushing his pride, and for a brief moment he realized that his entire image of invincibility had been destroyed by someone he had not even considered a threat. Jason remained motionless, just observing the man in front of him. His posture was calm and serene, as if wanting to make it clear that the victory was not meant to humiliate, but rather an inevitable lesson for anyone who underestimates others. Predator lowered his head, feeling a knot form in his throat. He had never felt anything as devastating as that silence after defeat. The Hollywood star took a step forward, approaching the fallen giant. His expression remained neutral, but his eyes conveyed a clear message: respect and understanding. As he passed by the defeated opponent, Jason paused for a brief moment beside him, almost as if waiting for a reaction. But Predator remained still, acknowledging that his arrogance had been the true reason for his downfall. The crowd continued to chant Jason's name, but he did not display a victorious smile or a celebratory gesture. To him, the victory was not a trophy to show off, but proof that true strength does not lie solely in the body, but in the mind and strategy. Without fanfare, he left the ring, passing through the corridor of people who crowded around to touch him and congratulate him. Despite all the celebrations around him, his expression remained introspective, as if reflecting on the impact of that victory. Predator remained standing at the center of the ring, his eyes fixed on the ground. His mind wandered through memories of all the fights where he crushed opponents mercilessly, and now he himself was the defeated one. Something within him seemed to break slowly. Perhaps for the first time he realized that the true battle had never been against others, but against the pride that blinded him from reality. In the days that followed, news of that epic fight spread like wildfire throughout the city. The story of Jason Statham's victory over the legendary Predator was told and retold with enthusiasm and disbelief. Some believed it was nothing more than an elaborate stunt, a marketing ploy to promote a new movie. But those who were present knew the truth. They had witnessed the impossible happening before their eyes. Jason's name became a legend, not just as an actor, but as a true fighter who challenged and defeated the most feared champion of the underground rings. In bars and alleys, people talked about the precision, the calmness, and the strength he displayed that unforgettable night. The image of Predator fallen and defeated became a symbol that no one is invincible, and the giant's reputation began to crumble. Predator disappeared from the underground arenas. Many said he had retreated to a distant place, trying to understand his own defeat and what it meant for his life. Some claimed he had completely abandoned the fighting world and dedicated himself to a more humble and peaceful life, while others insisted that he was training in secret, waiting for the right moment for a rematch. Jason, on the other hand, did not boast about his victory. He continued his life as usual, balancing his film career with intense and discreet training, maintaining the discipline that had always accompanied him. For him, that fight was not just a physical victory, but proof that true power lies in the mind and the ability to maintain control amid chaos. The streets still murmured about the day the unbeatable fell, and the few who witnessed the fight told the story with pride, as if they had witnessed a miracle. That clash was never just a fight. It was a collision of worlds, a confrontation between brutality and intelligence, and an eternal reminder that even the greatest titans can be brought down by those who know how to use their minds as a weapon. Did you enjoy this incredible story? Then make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next epic stories coming your way.